Okay, in our last lesson, we talked about credit and credit scores.
Now, let's move on to credit cards.
Remember how one of the definitions of credit is money that's available to you to borrow, also called a line of credit? Well, credit cards are one common type of credit line, and they're used by millions of people and businesses to make purchases.
A credit card is a small plastic or metal card that allows you to borrow money instantly to make a purchase and then pay it back later. Credit cards are a type of revolving credit, unlike loans, which are installment credit. This means you can borrow with a credit card and have the flexibility to repay the money in whatever way you want, as opposed to paying it back in equal installments on the same day of each month as you do with a loan.
Credit cards are also different from debit cards, which we learned about previously. Credit cards and debit cards do look very similar, and both allow you to make purchases without carrying cash. But there are some key differences that you should understand.
For one, debit cards are linked to your checking account and allow you to spend money that you already have. Credit cards, on the other hand, are not linked to your checking account in the same way. Instead, they are linked to a line of credit in a credit account, allowing you to spend money that you don't have and will need to pay back later.
The next difference is that with debit cards, your spending is limited by your personal account balance. You can't spend more money than you have in your account. But with credit cards, your spending is limited by your credit limit, which is the maximum amount you can borrow or spend at one time.
Because credit cards use credit, your credit limit is money that's available for you to borrow, not money that you already have. So if you pay for something using a credit card, you're borrowing money from a financial institution to make the purchase. Then, at some point in the future, you use your own money to pay the financial institution back, sometimes with interest added.
And the final difference that we'll discuss between debit and credit cards is how you take out cash. With debit cards, you can easily withdraw money from your bank account at an ATM since it's your own money. But with credit cards, this isn't always possible.
If you do use a credit card to take out cash, it's called a cash advance because the financial institution is giving you cash in advance of you actually having that money. Cash advances are like short-term loans, and they can be very expensive, which is why, in general, you should only take out cash using a debit card.
So that covers the main differences between credit and debit cards.
Now, let's look at an example of how spending on a credit card works. Let's say you have a friend, Dylan, who wants to buy a new t-shirt at a clothing store. Dylan can use his credit card to buy the t-shirt, and when he does, the store receives the money for his purchase from the bank who issued Dylan's credit card, not from Dylan's own bank account. Then the bank adds the amount of the purchase to Dylan's credit account balance. This means that technically, Dylan doesn't pay for the t-shirt right away with his own money. Instead, he gets to choose when he wants to pay for it by paying off his credit account balance at his bank.
At the end of the 1-month billing cycle, which lasts from December 1st to January 1st, Dylan will receive a billing statement that lists the t-shirt transaction and any other transactions he made with his credit card in that same month. The statement will also display the due date, the date when Dylan needs to pay back some or all of the money he borrowed. And even though his billing cycle ends on January 1st, the due date for Dylan's payment isn't until January 25th. This gap in time between January 1st and 25th is called the grace period because the bank is gracing Dylan with some extra time to make a payment after his billing cycle ends. So, if Dylan makes a payment on January 25th, he'll be paying off any transactions he made up to January 1st, but All of the transactions he makes after January 1st will go on his next billing statement.
Another important piece of information on Dylan's statement is his balance, which is the total amount of money he has spent but not paid back yet. Dylan does not have to repay the full $500 by the due date, but he at least needs to make what's called the minimum monthly payment, which is the lowest amount of money that must be paid back each month.
For example, Dylan's credit card might only require a minimum payment of $15. At this point, Dylan has 3 choices for the amount he can repay by the due date. A, make the minimum monthly payment of $15. B, pay off more than the minimum payment, but less than his full balance. Or C, pay off his entire credit card balance.
The amount that Dylan chooses to pay will determine how much interest he'll get charged. So let's go through each scenario and see how it works. If Dylan chooses option A and makes his minimum monthly payment, that knocks $15 off his $500 total balance, but he'll still owe $485, and he'll be charged interest on that $485. If he chooses option B and pays $300 on the due date, then he'll only owe $200 more, and the interest will only be applied to that remaining $200 balance, which means he'll pay substantially less interest than if he had made the minimum payment. But if he goes with option C and pays the entire $500 balance by the due date, he won't have any interest at all for that billing cycle.
A couple of additional things to note. If Dylan doesn't pay off his entire balance by the due date, not only will he be charged interest on his remaining balance, he'll also start the next month already owing money that he hasn't paid back. So any new purchases he makes will add to his existing balance, which he's now paying interest on.
This is why paying off your entire balance each month is the best thing you can do. It prevents you from paying interest, and it ensures that your balance doesn't keep going higher to the point where you can't pay it back.
Also, notice that we never listed not paying anything by the due date as one of Dylan's options. This is because not paying by the due date will result in either a late payment or a missed payment, which will show up on Dylan's credit history and really hurt his credit score. This is why you should always make a payment by or before the due date, even if it's only the minimum monthly payment.
All right, that's enough about the basics. In our next video, we'll learn more about how credit card interest works, as well as some of the risks and benefits of using credit cards.